Hello everyone, welcome. Today we take a step back. Slowly Magic was built to slow down the advance of sets, which is becoming quicker every day. And while there are multiple sets coming up, and we have Lorwyn already on the front step of our door, it is here, we are taking our time going through each aspect of an older set, Edge of Eternities for now. But in a few years we might be a bit behind in sets. Maybe in a few years we will already be a year behind. And that is okay. Let's take things slowly. I hope your coffee is warm. Let's continue with the enemies of the cave from the first episode, the Eumidians. The Eumidians are an interesting species. They are always insects, and they are insects from space that love evolution. But the reason they are really interesting to me is magic related, because you see, usually wizards print creatures in a sort of cycle. So the Eumidians would usually be Simic or something, and they would only be Simic. But in this case, they are usually mono green, and they add some other colors, but not all of them. So they didn't really go into an easy way of just saying, okay, well then they are all colors and they are green with something else. No, they did it with blue, black and red, but not with white, and that could be for lore reasons too, and today we will explore that. Them being paired with blue is actually very logical, because they see evolution on a planetary scale as a thing that can be manipulated and seen as a pattern. It can be thought about, it can be changed even, it can be perfected. And they don't see one life as important necessarily either, but they do see it as part of a pattern, and that pattern is very important to them. The core ability of the Eumidians is the lander token, which can find you a land. And this is also something interesting to me, because green used to be really not about artifacts at all. And in this case, they do bring it in because they can find you lands. And the lander tokens are very interesting for the Eumidians too, because they really show what they are all about. The Eumidians use these lander tokens as a way to plant a seed in the shape of a spacecraft on many of the worlds that they pass. So sometimes you will see a lot of ships from the Eumidians fly over, they will drop a seed, and in a few years your whole world might be changed. Sometimes they leave these landers alone for millions of years too, only to return to them once they have already experimented enough on another world. So you have to know that these seeds are very dangerous, because the Eumidians will make sure that your whole world will get sort of the same, but also very much not the same. We can see how they work with red too, because, well, the Eumidians really change what the Gruul are about. Because they are so focused on the color green, it sort of changes how red is shown in the Gruul combination. So what we see is where nature or its patterns are so important that red's creativity is used to discard whole worlds, which is just another skill, but also is a little bit different, because the Eumidians do this because they want evolution and the cycle to continue. It is not about discarding something, really, it is about something continuing. And this effect of a lander being sacrificed and then dealing 2 damage to an opponent just shows you that the Eumidians are ready to try another world and explode the last one once they have failed with the previous one. Even though the Eumidians seem kind of loving or something towards all life, they really don't care about it at all. They do feel like working on life and its patterns is a way of life. It's not just mindless. These insects feel like they are spiritually growing through their work. And when they are looking at life around them, they really see that cycle that is continuing, and they really see the nature of a whole ecosystem of stars, instead of just the one life that they are looking at right now. So really they are still working on themselves, and that is why I think in many ways black suits them too. But it is also for something else. It is a form of ruthlessness, because the Eumidians even stole DNA from the Drix, which are intergalactic Eldrazi hunters. They really don't care about anyone else, not even their other Eumidians. They don't really care about that. They don't even care about life if it's just one life. Even though the Eumidians didn't learn to planeswalk or weftwalk from the Drix, they have stolen the Drix speed and weaponry. And this is actually very metal, because they can learn anything from any other being in the universe. So they will eventually become way too strong, the Eumidians. This is very dangerous, because the fact that the Eumidians can steal any lifeform's DNA and add it to their arsenal means that they will eventually be the perfect assassin for anything. The Eumidians fight any threat. The Cav, the Drix, or the Monoists, as we see here. They really don't stop anywhere. And also they can become... they can change themselves so that they are ready to fight the next army. So maybe if you are fighting a Monoist, you just need a big fist. And maybe if you are fighting an Eldrazi, you need to steal a Drix weapon so that you can beat them. So eventually the Eumidians will be able to defeat you through many waves of small insects that will become better suited to defeat you, especially every time they charge at you. So, as we have seen the red color before, we have learned that the Eumidians easily discard life. That's not because they don't want life alive, but because failures don't exist. They are just a lesson. They discard this version of life so that later another can replace it. We see Meltstrider eulogists hold their weapon up with pride after their species went extinct. Maybe it's because that's a win in their book, or it might be because they are signaling for a new seed pod to replace them. Either way, it's beautiful. The Eumidians never fight alone. They use the strength of the whole planet. As the planet evolves, and their creatures do too, they become stronger, the Eumidians. Xenomorph Imago shows this through either making a creature a 3/3 or a 6/6 on landfall. Because once you have 6 or more lands, creatures will become even stronger than before, because the planet has become whole. It feels a bit weird that the Eumidians are non-white at first, because they do fight together. They help each other, they make each other stronger. For example, Mightform Harmonizer says, whenever a land you control enters, double the power of target creature you control until end of turn. So they do make other things better. He even says some things are bigger than oneself. But they really don't do this for their community or something, that it should be white in terms of philosophy. They do it because the thing that is bigger than themselves is perhaps literally bigger than themselves because it has grown so fast, but mostly because nature is bigger than themselves. So it is really green focused if you look at it that way. You have to think about what they are saying, but also why they are saying it. Even when one soldier fails, the next one will learn from that soldier. So that is why the Eumidians employ the Brood Guard to go to a planet first and protect the landers. These Brood Guards are generally good at defending and making sure that they carve a path for the next wave of Eumidians to be better than them, but they are not specialized yet. And as you can see in the art of Brood Guard Elite, you can see that the next Eumidians coming up have a different color. Maybe they have been changed a little bit. They have perhaps a smaller knife or something. So they have changed already. That is how quickly this goes. This does mean that the Brood Guards aren't that respected. We can see this as the Eumidians have a saying or an insult that says, maybe in your next evolution. So meaning that if you are not yet ready to be of use, maybe in your next evolution you will be strong enough. The main goal for all Eumidians is Terra Symbiosis. This means that all life forms on the planet work together with the planet, and the planet works together with all life forms on the planet. They should all grow together. Through doing this, they learn until a whole universe is sort of one organism. But weirdly, they would like the cycle to be still about the same. They just help it proceed. And if this might seem weird to you, that is because it is. We don't really know what this means, but that is why they are aliens. And we need especially in a set like Edge of Eternities, something that feels alien, because the space is all about aliens, things we don't yet know how they work. And the Eumidians, we really don't know how they work. We just know that they want to change the world so that it is symbiotic with all life forms on that world, but we don't know how much they want to change it. And that is a little bit scary, because we don't know. And not knowing is the scariest thing that can ever happen to us. Once a planet is seeded and protected by the brood guards, the Eumidians start to manage the planet. They throw around genes and alter evolution, slightly sometimes, so that everything at least works together in a way. But they do adjust to each planet accordingly. Things are never the same on 2 different planets or 2 different solar systems. The Eumidians don't necessarily want a world that's according to plan. It just needs to be symbiotic. Sometimes they can plan, but only to make something symbiotic. And they won't go further than that. If something goes wrong, as we might say it, then they just accept that and make sure that it works together with the rest, so that it can still stay itself or its natural version. The home planet for Eumidians in the story of Edge of Eternities is Evendo, the waking planet. And this planet is awakening because it was frozen, and now slowly the ice melts. Once the planet is stationed, as the card does, it will grant you mana for every creature, and that means that the more life on a planet, the more magic you get. So this is actually a perfect example where you first have to thaw the whole planet by tapping 12 power worth of creatures for charge counters, and then you can use it as a great forest that really gives life to all of the Eumidians and everything else on the planet. Now on this world we see that the Eumidians are very busy with thawing the ice. This is one example of how they change a world. They make sure that the ice goes away so that the plants can grow again. They have to join this Eumidian in the sun, because they need to grow, because they need to be synergistic with everything else on the planet, but also in the universe. Also, they need to be synergistic with the sun. So they need to grow upwards, they need to grow out of the ice, and therefore the ice has to go. It is also not alive, so it is not natural, per se. So the Eumidians change it so that life can find a way to grow and be synergistic again. The Eumidians have a team for this called the Melt Strikers, who travel the world and thaw it along the way. They use equipments for this, which is again very interesting because it doesn't feel like green, but you can really see that they are not afraid of using technology as long as it helps life. So if it wouldn't help life, they would quickly discard their machines again. Eventually we learn through the Eumidians that not only do creatures evolve, also do their weapons and trinkets evolve. Not because they're alive and changing, but because their use can find a second life. The thawing heat gun can be used to shoot down UFOs, so that is one way that life can change, and your gun can too. And once the planet thaws and changes and life forms erupt and evolve, the Eumidians, like Narix here, change along. They mold into new forms, they even choose what to become according to what Evendo needs from them. So here we see Narix felt their mold coming, and before taking a new form they had to find what Evendo required of them. So perhaps like the one in the back, they need to be bigger, perhaps they need to be even smaller, at least it will need something. So they change along, and maybe they are the quickest to change. Evendo is a peaceful world, maybe because it was frozen over, but at least there was no war. So Shattered Wings seems like a fun little joke. Pfft, the dumb Eumidians don't know that shooting an aircraft out of the sky isn't gentle at all. But that's the point. The Eumidians don't have to be gentle. Evendo has to be, so they can shoot an aircraft out of the sky in order for the monoliths to be stopped from attacking anyone on Evendo, in order to keep the world itself gentle. Once a planet is in symbiosis with all life, that planet starts producing new Eumidians fit for colonizing another planet. So they start mass producing another spacecraft full of people to start seeding the next world. The Eumidians don't care about their landing destroying a bunch of life. I find this beautiful, as there might not even be a reason for them landing so hard. Except for maybe if the ship was a literal seed that has to go deeper into the earth. But it seems like it could also dig a little hole. If I would be their neighbor, I wouldn't be a happy person with that seed ship entering on my house like that. The Eumidians start off as aliens on any planet, with weird complicated landing zones that help them start on a new world. This allows them to populate it more easily. That is also why the extra counters are coming on planets and spacecrafts too, because they help colonizing it. After a seed ship has landed, the Eumidians don't care whether they find dead matter. That's also just life that still has to take shape. The Eumidians would gladly sacrifice themselves in order to resurrect another extinct being. Here we see that through paying 5 mana and then sacrificing this Eumidian to return another creature or spacecraft from your graveyard to the battlefield. You might say spacecraft, that's a bit weird, but most spacecrafts from the Eumidians are actually alive themselves. I also have to say, look at this little shroomy guy. Look at him being fun. They can become anything, the Eumidians, except white, because they will never be that. They will never be one. They cannot be one mind, as they have to change and evolve to be whatever they need to be on a planet. The Eumidians also cannot care about each other. Even though the individual isn't too important to them either, the whole can never be important at all. It has to be natural, not set in stone. So here we see the swarm lacked a natural predator, the swarm of little insects. So the Eumidians became that predator. They cannot care about the other. They cannot care about each other, because if they would care too much about each other, that would stop life from being itself. They would have to stop eating each other, for example, if that would be necessary. So they can't care about each other. They can sometimes care about the self, but not too much either. They will eventually give themselves up to be good for others. And that black mana really is here because they don't care about the other so much. The Eumidians really just want to find out what happens when. Even when a virus kills many of their people, many of the creatures that they should care for, they encourage the virus to do it more. They only contain it slightly, but really they are curious for any potential of life to take shape. The Eumidians are like ice. They say that themselves. They say, we are as ice, their mentor once told them, destined to shed our rigid form and nourish the grounds with our melting. So, are they like ice? Are they all? Or are some like fire on other planets and are just the Evendo people or Eumidians like ice? Well, I think some are like fire, because they might need to be for the planet to be stronger. And that is just very interesting. See, the Eumidians are everything as long as it is in the name of advancement of the cycle. They can be chaotic, rectos, or orderly blue, as long as evolution can shape nature's cycles. So, I want to thank you for watching, and I wish you a very nice day. Bye.